May I invite Wupul to unmute, please?
Good evening, Ajahn.
Hello.
I think I'm audible.
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you, Ajahn. I'm sorry. I'm not in a position to on my video because I'm on the road. I have a question with regard to my son. He's having these days actually 6 months before he was diagnosed with Perthes disease with his legs. Now he's limping, and actually we went through so many medications, and but there's no improvement. And I went to some shaman, and the few of people, they said that there's an evil spirit, and that is troubling to my son. And also what I noticed last week, I was chanting spirit chanting to him. At that time the pain was intensifying. So what was the reason for that? And if there's some kind of evil spirit, how can we get rid of that? And even though the pain is intensifying, is it okay for me to chant for him? Thank you, Ajahn. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Well, I sympathize with your position and your son's illness. I think you have to look at cause and effect here. Say, for example, if you're chanting paritas and it brings up faith and wholesome states of mind, brings you up energy to practice more, that's a good thing. If pain is increasing at that time, well, that could be coincidence, but it's not linked to the chanting, I would say. It's for other reasons, because the chanting is a very wholesome, good thing, and that's going to have a good effect on your mind or the mind of those listening. As far as spirits go, well, if you don't have any personal experience of that, you haven't seen any spirit, you're a little vulnerable to other people, whatever they say then, aren't you? You know, that someone else may say there's an evil spirit bothering you or your son. Could be true, could be not. They could be making it up, they could be imagining. So I wouldn't give too much weight to those interpretations of the situation. I'd come back more to what are the good causes for looking after your son's health. So obviously keep going to the doctors and getting the treatments, and then encourage your son to focus on what he can still do. If he's limping and he's got, physical ailment, that's only part of his life situation, isn't it? He's still got, I assume he still functions well, he can see, he can hear, he can think, he can learn things, he can use his hands, he can use his eyes, he can talk, he can listen. He's still got many, many good things going for him in his life, and maybe you want to get him to focus on those things. And obviously get treatment for his condition, but try to get him to adjust and see, well, if he's unfortunate and has a health condition with his legs, it's not the end of the world, it's not the full story, is it? There's other things he can still do in his life. There's still many, many opportunities for him. So, for example, he can still listen to the Dhamma, he can learn to meditate on the theme of loving kindness and spread thoughts of kindness to himself and to others. Do that regularly. Maybe before he goes to bed at night, get him to meditate on the theme of loving kindness. One thing is, if somebody tells you you've got an evil spirit bothering you, you can't see this spirit, but you have this thought, oh, there's an evil spirit bothering you, it could easily make you quite angry. And you say, I want to get rid of this spirit because it's bothering me, bothering my son. You have to be careful there, don't you? It can put you in a state of aversion, hatred. I would rather, encourage the practice of loving kindness, which helps to relax us, relax the person practicing it, and develop loving kindness towards all beings, those you can see, those you can't see. Develop more mindfulness, listen to the Dhamma so that you can understand more Dhamma. Do more dana, practice dana in whatever way you can. So I don't know how old your son is, but if there's any way to get him to practice dana, that would be a good thing. Helping other people. And there's plenty of good things one can do, even when ill or with ailments, that can further one's spiritual practice, dana, sila, bhavana, listening to the Dhamma. I would encourage you to focus on that in the family and develop a lot of good energy, strengthen your faith in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, keep practicing. I think you'll find this is where you get real happiness and the kind of strength and qualities that will help you get through the illness or help your son, help your family to get through it. Does that help? Are you still there? No answer.
Wupul?
Yes, Ajahn, I'm still here. My son is 10 years old.
Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn. Your advice was...
If he's 10 years old, I definitely would encourage you to teach him how to do metta bhavana, maitri bhavana, perhaps just before he goes to bed at night. And maybe use very simple anapanasati, learning to spend a few moments here and there through the day, calming his mind by turning to the breath, especially if he's getting anxious about his condition. Or, you know, if somebody's told him that he's got an evil spirit bothering him, that'll probably bring him a lot of suffering, anxiety, worry. So get him to practice anapanasati just to relax. Because when the mind becomes more relaxed, less anxious, that helps the bodily, immune system and so on. And then do some dana. I don't know where you're living, if you're living in Sri Lanka or somewhere.
I'm living in Sri Lanka, Ajahn, Colombo.
Yeah, maybe go to the market and buy some living creatures like fish or turtles and go and release them in the water, in the sea or the river. And then do some dana, go and take your son to the temple, offer some food to the Sangha. Get him to do things. Maybe go to a place where there's orphans or sick people and do some dana, helping them. I think if you find you help him to practice the Dhamma, you'll find that brings him some happiness, and maybe some good things will arise out of that.
All right. Sadhu Lumpur. Next question is from the chat box from Leong. Bante, my mom raised her voice at me when she was anxious. I was angry and told her not to raise her voice at me and be more respectful. As a result, she became angrier. How should I manage this situation better?
Yeah, dealing with angry people is not easy. If we answer back or we complain about them because they're angry, they tend to get more angry. That's very common. So particularly with mothers, grandmothers, aunties, you say, they tell you off, and they tell you you've done something wrong, or there's something you should have done that you didn't do. And then when you answer back, they'll get more angry. So they say, don't answer back. The level of their voice will rise. Maybe they'll clip you. I don't know if people still do that anymore. Nowadays, you're not allowed to hit each other. But when I was a kid, you answer back, you get clipped around the ear. And the more you answer back, the worse everything gets. So if you can, when you're being told off by a parent or somebody, a teacher or somebody, I would try to be as silent and receptive as you can, even if you don't agree, or even if you think it's unfair. Never mind, just be patient. Practice patience, tolerance, and metta, loving kindness. And then maybe when they're calmed down at another time, a totally different time, different occasion, then go and talk to them about the problem. If they've criticized you and you felt it was unjustified, unfair, well, when they've calmed down later, go and talk to them and say, do you know you said this, but it wasn't true or wasn't right? When they're calm. But when they're angry, I wouldn't bother. I would just stay calm and don't make it worse. Don't provoke them. Don't make it worse. That's just something you learn in life, isn't it? You can't always talk to people when they're angry. Sometimes it's better just to say, well, we'll talk later. You listen, but you don't reply, you don't say anything. Because you often get angry, and then they get angry, and you get angry, and the whole thing gets worse, doesn't it? Anger tends to breed anger. It's like fire. Like the Buddha said, it's like fire. So if one person's on fire and then another person joins in, well, they tend to get on fire too, and two fires just get out of control. So try to be very careful. If you know your mother is in a mood or going to criticize you, or just be very patient. Don't make it worse. One thing that helps is just to remind yourself in a situation, if someone is speaking to you, they're anxious or they're angry, try and think it through. They're doing that because they love you. Usually that's the case. They love you, they want the best for you. Maybe they've become too attached in that situation, so they've lost control and they're being angry in the way they scold you or they talk to you, but it's actually coming from love. So keep that in the back of your mind to help you to be more accommodating and to receive whatever they're saying without getting so angry yourself. If it's getting really intense, we'll just leave. Maybe move into another room if you can, move away until they've calmed down. So try and have a few strategies ready for when you have to be in those situations. You can also follow your breathing. If someone's really angry, scolding you, criticizing you, you follow your breath just to keep yourself calm. And obviously listen to what they're saying. If they're saying something and it's true, maybe you have to accept it. Maybe they're telling you off because you didn't do something that you should have done. You have to reflect, what they're saying is true. I have to agree. So then there's no need to get upset or make things worse. You just agree, yeah, it's true what they say. All of us need to improve in our lives, don't we? None of us are perfect. So sometimes when people criticize us, we don't like it because of our ego, our sense of self. But we have to try and establish mindfulness and think, what are they saying? And if it's true, we have to accept that. I always remember the story of this monk I know who was walking into the village on alms round, and when you walk into the village on alms round in Thailand, there's always a few little kids around waiting to see when the monks arrive so they can tell their mum or their dad and say, oh, mum, the monks are here already, so that they can bring out their rice. And the monk walked into the village and there's a little boy standing there. Maybe he was a naughty boy, I don't know, but he stood there and then he shouted to his mum, who was in the kitchen of her house. He said, Mum, the monks are here. The monk's here, but he's not a real monk. And the monk, he didn't know why the kid is doing that. It's just the kid is being mischievous. And his first reaction was, what does he mean? I'm not a real monk. And the monk started to get angry because this little boy was saying he's not a real monk when he is a real monk. But then he thought, well, if I get angry over this comment from this little boy, then I really am not a real monk, because a real monk doesn't give in to anger. A real monk practices patience, tolerance, lets go of his angry reactions. So he thought, this is a test, isn't it? This little boy is trying to see if I'm really going to get angry, and I can't give in to anger, because if I'm angry, I'm not a real monk. So he just had to button his lip, put up with it. So we have to learn how to do that, how to bring up the mindfulness, be patient, forgive, let go. You just keep doing it. Try not to make things worse.
Sadhu Lumpo, another question from the same person. Bhante, sometimes during meditation, I can be paying attention to my breath and also thinking about my work. Is this also meditation?
During meditation, you don't want to be thinking about too many things deliberately. Of course, many thoughts will come into your mind as you're meditating, and that's normal. But it's not, usually speaking, it's not a time to solve your work problems or your life problems. Your number one priority in meditation is always to bring up mindfulness. And so you need to be mindful of something. Usually you have a meditation object such as the breath or loving kindness or any of the other meditation objects. And you're training yourself to put attention on your meditation object. And that way you're training mindfulness, training in mindfulness. Mindfulness will become stronger and more continuous because of that training. So if you were to start thinking about other problems in your life and work at that time, you'll probably find you can't do it very successfully together with being mindful of your breath. You're just giving your mind too much to do. So it's a time to set aside all your problems and issues. Just focus on the one object and get good at that. Practice that during your meditation. You can think about work and life and other things at other times. You know, the day has many hours in it, so you can find time to think about other things. But during your meditation, you want to practice mindfulness and make that really strong. What you'll find is if you practice mindfulness sincerely every day, even if it's just for a short period of time, your level of mindfulness will improve. You become more self-aware, more aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and you'll be able to look at problems to do with your work, your life, and so on, and see the truth more clearly because you're more mindful. But you have to give mindfulness a chance. You have to practice the mindfulness first, then consider various problems and issues in your life. Don't try and do it together. It's too confusing and it just means your meditation falls apart.
Sadhu Lumpo, the next question is from Jennifer. Why is it that people seem to flare up with anger towards their close loved ones and not so toward their distant friends? Any tips on overcoming fear of another? Anger blows up with family members every time we come in contact.
Yeah, very good question. It's true, isn't it? The people you love are the people who make you most angry. The people you are closest to make you most angry because you have all this shared time, shared interest. So then, it's easy to become disappointed, easy to not get what you want, easy for them to annoy you. Because you're spending so much time together, you're so close, you have this shared interest. Whereas people who are further away, it doesn't matter what they do, what they say, what they think, because they're further away. It doesn't matter. But the people you live with usually are the ones who make you most angry. So if you're a parent, your children make you most angry. If you have a partner, relationship, they will be the ones who make you angry. Kids get angry with their parents and so on. Of course, friends also get angry with each other, but usually it's family and close relatives or sometimes close work colleagues who get the most angry with each other. So that's something to reflect on, isn't it? You know where the problem lies. You're so attached to this person that whatever they say, whatever they do that doesn't meet your wishes, you'll get annoyed. And if that happens often, then your annoyance moves from just being mildly irritated or annoyed to maybe full-on anger, ill will, or, in the worst situation, you explode with anger. So you have to be aware of the problem and like you say, you have to look into ways of being more mindful around those people who you get angry with. know sit down and review the times you've been angry in the past. What situations stir up your anger? What happens? Maybe it's certain habits that those people have, behavior habits. There's something that they keep doing that that you don't like and annoys you, and you haven't addressed it and they haven't changed, so it just keeps happening, so eventually your anger spills out. So sometimes if it's someone close to you, maybe you can talk to them, discuss the problems with them and say, well, you have this habit and it really annoys me, is there anything we can do? I know you can't always have those conversations, but you can first of all see whether you can talk to them and get better understanding. Sometimes you have to develop more compassion towards the person, maybe look at things from their point of view, and maybe we're getting angry and we're actually being a little too self-centered, selfish, expecting them to do everything we want and keep us happy, when actually that's not reasonable. Sometimes we have to practice letting go, being more tolerant. But sometimes they're the ones who need to change, and so if we live with them, well, we maybe have to have that conversation, talk to them. There's no one answer here, but you have to look into the problem, and if you're aware of somebody or some situation that regularly makes you angry, well, practice with that. Be ready for it, prepare for it. Develop some strategies. What are you going to say? What are you going to do in that situation or with that person? Is the best thing to just avoid them? And sometimes that's a good solution. Is the best thing to talk to them? Sometimes that's the right thing to do. Sometimes we have to look at things from different directions, different angles as well. Try and put ourselves in their shoes. Sometimes we need to laugh at ourselves, laugh at them, laugh at the situation, lighten up a bit. Anything that gets you to see that anger is suffering and anger is to be let go of. That's your aim. Sometimes it's just our expectations of the world, isn't it? You expect other people to behave better or differently, and then you always get annoyed because they don't. But maybe we're expecting too much from the world. The world is not a perfect place. You'll never get everyone running around to your tune, doing what you would like them to do, saying what you want them to say, doing what you want them to do. That's impossible. We can't even get our own mind to do what we want and to act like we want. When you meditate, you see that. You have to be very tolerant of your own mind, because it's often not peaceful at all. See, there's no way you're going to get other people to do what you want. So get used to that. Just accept it. Oh, that's the way it is. They're that way, even when they're very annoying or sometimes, doing foolish things, harmful things. Sometimes we just have to accept it. As one monk said, you have to learn to walk around with your eyes half closed so you don't notice what's going on around you.
Sadhu Lumpur. Next, I would invite Pooh to unmute yourself, please.
I would like to ask you that if I don't practice loving kindness, but in the Vipassana, when I'm doing Vipassana, we have the body and mind to be our objective. In that time, it can develop the loving kindness in the same time or not. Or I have to really forget to practice loving kindness also.
I didn't hear all your question because the line is breaking up, but from what I understand, you were asking about practice of meditation, vipassana, and then practicing loving kindness. Sometimes you need to turn to loving kindness if you have a real problem. Maybe you have some anger come up and nothing you can do can get rid of it. Every other meditation technique won't get rid of it. You can't see it as impermanent, not self yet. You can't practice vipassana and let go of it. It just bothers you. So then you have no choice but to bring up and work with the loving kindness and just keep working at it. Like set yourself a task. You say, this is the thing I've got to do now. I've got to break down my own anger towards this person or towards myself even. I got to do this, and I'm not going to be able to move on until I have. So this is my task now. How can I bring up loving kindness? And some people can use some wisdom, understanding, and they try to see everyone as similar to them, see what we have in common. Sometimes we look for the good in the person. Sometimes we look at the suffering of the anger and say, this is just no good. It's not helping me. It's not helping them. I have to let this go. You have to find your angle that you can let go of that anger and bring up the loving kindness. Then you can move on, and maybe you can move on and move back to practicing vipassana or mindfulness of breathing. So sometimes you'll find there's a need to just practice loving kindness. I say everyone has to do that sometimes. Some people make loving kindness their main meditation object. If it works for you, good, then practice it every day, at least once a day. Practice loving kindness meditation. Some people use it more when they need to. So they've got anger arise, now they will bring the loving kindness up and work on it. But I would have it there ready for when you're falling into anger, because often it surprises us. Something happens out of the blue, spontaneously you become angry. Like the last question, somebody makes you angry unexpectedly. So you have to have loving kindness ready so you can turn to it. Like if you look at the life of the Buddha or the Arahants, they get to the point where they can turn to loving kindness when they want, at will. They've mastered their own mind. So maybe a moment of anger arises, if they're not yet fully arahant, maybe they're just sotapanna or sakadagami. A moment of anger arises, immediately they will turn to loving kindness to let it go. They just change their way of thinking very quickly. When we begin our practice, it's very slow. We say, oh, I'm so angry, I should bring up loving kindness, and then the loving kindness just doesn't arise. It doesn't emerge. Where is my loving kindness? And it may take a long time. That's because you're new to the practice, beginning. But as you keep practicing, you get better at bringing up loving kindness when you need it, turning the mind to that object so you can let go of the ill will. Then when you can do it easily, then you hardly need to do much at all. You just quickly let go of your anger. You see your anger as impermanent, not self, so you can practice vipassana and loving kindness meditation alternately, very close together, when you get better at it.
So, if we practice vipassana, as I know that vipassana can bring our to get the wisdom, right? So if we get wisdom, it can bring us to go to metta in automatic or not.
If your wisdom is really clear and you see things very clearly, your vipassana practice is well developed, all you need to do is see an angry thought as just a temporary mental state and you let it pass. You let it go right there. You don't really need metta. But I think most of us, we're not quite there yet. So sometimes we need to consciously turn to metta to help us let go of the anger. It's like an extra tool or an extra thing you use. Especially if the anger is, you're not letting go of it. If you're not letting go of anger, you've got to find a method to do that. So sometimes you need to go back to basics, bring up the loving kindness, work on that until you establish it, and then you can carry on. I'd recommend actually, if you're meditating, you're sitting or you're walking meditation or you're sitting, if anger arises and you can't yet have loving kindness, don't stop until you can. Don't stop meditating until you've overcome your anger and let it go. Just keep turning to the loving kindness until it's there and you've let go of your anger.
Thank you very much. สาธุค่ะ
Sadhu Lumpu, is there any other questions? You may raise a digital hand or type it into the chat box.
Looks like maybe the questions are finished, so we'll end the session there today. We'll wish you all a happy Christmas and a happy New Year if we don't see you. Tomorrow we start a meditation retreat at the monastery for about 6 days. We may be able to stream online some of that during the evenings, which you're welcome to watch. That will be on the Facebook, no, it won't be on Zoom. But otherwise, we wish you well. May you all be safe, healthy, happy, and may you all be blessed by the Buddha Dhamma Sangha.